Okay, this is a sex talk, but we're going to start out with a story. Floyd and I have spent maybe close to 30 years kind of going to meetings and conferences and discussions with pastors, talking over Bible issues, talking over life issues with those pastors. And one of my actually all-time favorite memories is we were in this little, I'm going to try to not give any identifying information. So we were in this little rural area with people from all over that area that kind of had at a what's called a church house, where the church of that country has part of their parish, part of their ministry is they have groups that come and talk about issues. So we're at a church house, and part of that whole thing is we get wrapped up into the culture. So there was the Sunday dinner. So we had been spending Friday, Sabbath, and Sunday morning talking about theological issues, presenting papers, thinking about how we were going to work with pastors in different ways. And Floyd and I sat down next to each other at dinner across from the spouse of one of the pastors. And I was sitting there eating my vegetarian loaf, and out of the blue, this very proper, traditional pastor's wife said, "Can I talk to you about the conference?" And we said, "Sure." And she looked at us and said, "Well, I'm fine with everything, but I just don't get this stuff about anal sex." And I turned to Floyd and I looked at him and I said, "Yours." And Floyd didn't even bat an eyelash. And to tell you the truth, it was one of the most gentle, caring discussions about anal sex I could have ever remembered. I don't know what it was like for you. You want to say when she did that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it caught me a little bit off guard because we had been talking about some really theologically deep concepts, discussions, or whatever. And, sex is one of my favorite topics. It always has been because it has to do with people and people's interactions with each other. And so yeah, when the question came, it was like, oh, I love this question, but I was a little surprised at where it was coming from and the timing. So it wasn't something I prepared for, but yeah, no, I love it when someone feels comfortable enough with us to ask questions like that, very vulnerable questions.
So we clearly talk about this subject. Floyd and I have a running joke. He's shocked by my painted toenails, and I'm shocked that he talks about dungeons all the time. But I'm not sure either one of us is really shocked. And I won't tell you about the time he took me to a leather bar in Dallas, but because that doesn't fit the topic yet.
Another time, another place.
Another time, another place. But one of the things that we have been thinking about is that we would like a place for you guys to ask questions, or for us to be able to do some conversations about sex and sexuality and to answer questions. And clearly, evidently, there are pastors' wives that are thinking about anal sex. So it's not just a boy thing. And there are men who probably are wondering, I don't know what men wonder about. And unless I ask you. So one of the things that Floyd and I are wanting to do is to create a discussion. We might do it like we're doing now, or we might do it as a conversation with you. But we're going to be creating a discussion about sex and sexuality in the next, what I call the conference season, like next fall into the spring. Because we think it's important, and we want to hear your questions, and we want to hear your thoughts. So I'm giving Floyd some time to think, because you're supposed to allow men to have some time to think, male brains. Thanks, Arlene. But what we're interested in hearing from you all, and you can write to us, because boy, are we accessible in so many different ways I can't keep track. You can write to us individually. You can write to us however you want to. You can send it in Fireworks Across the Sky, or talk to us at meetings that we're at. But we'd like to begin to do some stuff that's real, that really does talk about our bodies, orgasms, getting older and having sex. What are the different ways you can do it? What are the many ways that you can be safe? What are the many ways? Because I mean, I've been around Adventist all my life, and I've never heard of a good sex ed class, that kids get starting when they're 10. So we're going to kind of start a sex ed class that might be discussions with Floyd and Catherine. It might be a lot of things, but we want you to begin to think about what might be interesting to you. Floyd, your thoughts? Giving you no warning.
Exactly. Growing up, we always have lots of questions. Kids love asking questions because they don't know not to ask the questions. Later on, we're told you don't ask that. So as a kid, yeah, I had lots of questions and didn't know who to ask them to, who would have been comfortable answering them about any subject in life. And then when we realized that we are queer, whatever the alphabet that's attached to that might be, we don't know who's safe to go and talk to about that. And so I want us to start those conversations. No question is off the table. You can ask anything about any topic. As Adventism adds another layer to it, is like, okay, you just talk about the missionary position of sex, and that's as far as we go. And no, that's not as far as you go. There is a lot more to talk about, from negotiating, consensual, safe, as Catherine was saying. So we want to talk about whatever your questions might be. And so it's important to know what questions do you have, because your safety and understanding what makes you tick is important to us and to your well-being.
Yeah, and if you have questions you want and you don't want to have to ask them in front of anybody, just write to us. And like I said, you may be getting something like this. We may decide to have conversations. We don't know what we're going to do yet. Floyd, at some point in the immediate future, we'll be sending out survey monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm nudging you. And that will give you an opportunity. But mostly, we're just starting this topic. And I don't care if you want to talk about rainbows on your painted toenails or dungeons or S&M. I work, 1/3 of my practice is working with Gen Z kids. 14 to 30 is kind of in my range right now. And they are talking about sex in such graphic detail, it would make your mother's ears singe. It is normal for me to be talking about lubricants, making sure the person you think you want to lose your virginity with has agreed to this. I mean, these are normal conversations for me, and I'm pretty sure Floyd's gotten questions somewhere in this range, just because Floyd is Floyd and can talk about any old thing. So anyway, this is just a beginning conversation. We'll send it out to you. We'll see what you do. We'll send out a survey monkey by the 2nd of July. And you can let us know what you're interested in. Anyway, thank you. We're looking forward to doing this with you too.
Definitely looking forward to it.